Not, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to consent, please.
All items on the consent calendar are considered routine or implement earlier council action. They may be enacted by one motion, and there will be no separate discussion unless requested.
Are there any items that anyone would like to pull for a separate vote first? Or separate votes?
I'd like to request E, F, and I, please.
E, F, and I for all separate votes?
Yeah, yes.
Or just comments?
Just for discussion and questions.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
I'll do that. E, I'm sorry, E. Thank you.
E, F, and I,
Thank
just
you.
for discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Marty?
Mr. Mayor, just comments, and I think it's important that we hear about the remaining, other than A, B, and C. I'd be interested in acknowledging some of the work there and dealing with that, but it doesn't have to be a separate vote.
Sure. On D, G, H, is that what you're saying?
Yes. And did somebody, and I, just the remaining, all the remaining after D.
Other than A, B, C?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so there have been asked for no separate votes, but comments on all items. So why don't we go ahead and just take on consent items A, B, and C. Is there any action from council?
Since we're not asking for separate votes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The Vice Mayor is correct. So why don't we, thank you, sir. That's why you're here. So why don't we just start going down the list. Item D is adopt the resolution accepting the downtown parking lot resurfacing project as complete. Marty?
Right. Got mic on. Thank you. If you haven't been downtown in a while, you might not have noticed, and hopefully you have noticed that all the parking lots on the east side of our downtown have been resurfaced. And if we could potentially have staff mention the highlight of those projects and how the money was done under budget, and just wanted to acknowledge all the work and encourage people to come downtown.
Mr.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. The project, as Councilmember Medina mentioned, consists of 5 parking lot resurfacing on the east side of El Camino. And this work had to be done. The sidewalk, as the parking lots were deteriorating, and so we ended up putting together a project to get that work completed. The project was budgeted for about $600,000. Construction cost was about $434,000. And back in December of 2019, that's when O'Grady Paving was contracted with the city to perform the work. And they did a lot of base repairs, installing thermoplastic parking spaces and pavement markings and parking bumpers and any additional ADA compliance stalls as well, and then ADA signs were installed as well. The project had a couple of change orders, about $70,000 worth, but it was also completed within under budget. So the total final contract with O'Grady Paving is originally was $434,000 and ended up to be about $364,000. So we have a total of approximately $175,000 remaining in our original budget that will be going back to the Measure A fund as well as the general fund.
Thank you.
Anyone else on that? Okay, let's go to item E. Adopt resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with West Associates to update the water system master plan.
So I have a question about E and F, and it might be beneficial to just combine them. So the staff report refers to the master plan, the last master plan being created in 2012, 2013, and then the last assessment in 2004. Just given the costs that we have, do we have any metrics to show that there were goals that were met of the 2004 or 2012, 2013 products? Because it's $500,000.
Thank you. The let's see here. My items correct here. The 2004 item was a little bit different than the water master plan. The 2004 item was for the emergency response plan. The master plan was actually completed in 2012. And with that, the city has been performing a lot of the improvements in the water systems. We have tanks that were rebuilt, pipelines that are being installed, replaced, as well as pressure regulating stations that has been installed already. So with the new water master plan, normally it's recommended to have those updated every 5 years. It's going on about 8 years now since we last completed the water master plan. So hence this is why staff is bringing the item to council for approval. And this master plan would also look at various different new developments that are happening in the area and how whether some of those water systems within those areas needs to be upsized and for capacity and fire flow analysis. So the master plan will look into we'll be conducting additional hydraulic analysis throughout the entire distribution system and assess any of the capacity and operational and seismic reliability needs of our water facilities.
So would we be able to receive a report at a future meeting showing what has been accomplished from the previous plans?
Sure, that can be provided at
That'd
a
be
future
helpful.
meeting. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Marty? Please.
The reason why I pulled it was to acknowledge that doing these plans, it costs money. And we're talking $239,000 that it's recommended every 5 years, and we kind of stretch it to 8. But people often ask why our water rates are so high, why our sewer rates are so high. And we have to pay for these required plans, and they don't come cheaply. And they're very thorough to make sure that we have a sustainable water supply and that we can provide firefighting capacity in all areas. So I thought it was worthwhile to pull this item and just have a little bit of discussion about it, but I will be voting to approve.
Okay. Anyone else? Let's go to item G, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a copier printer agreement. G. Marty?
Yeah, it's nice to know that we have staff that are looking through at ways to reduce costs. And this is a reduction of $18,000 over 5 years, right? By lumping together a master contract for our printers. And I just wanted to acknowledge it, that I do appreciate that, and letting it just go by on consent. Well, maybe nobody would read that, but I wanted to acknowledge the effort and the ongoing efforts that we're putting forward with our staff in reducing costs. So thank you very much.
Laura?
I just want to echo those same comments, but it's not just about the cost savings, though. It's about the contracts, too. So I think that's important, that there were all sorts of contracts ending at different times, and what a mess and a chaoticness. So I think having this one contract with all types of copiers and printers, I think. So kudos to staff for looking into this project and actually redoing that. So thank you.
Okay, let's go on to item H, adopt resolution approving appointment of Eric Woolman as interim police chief. Marty, was that?
Sure. Just the city manager to discuss that a little bit if we have anybody in-house.
Absolutely. So why don't I take a moment to discuss this item. So we have our current police chief, Ed Barberini, who will retire. Who will not retire.
Wow, you got him all happy.
He's just
smiling
leaving
back
here,
there.
but he's not retiring. I'm sorry. Ed is taking a job as the police chief for the city of San Mateo, and his last day with the city of San Bruno will be February 2nd. We have a recruitment for our next police chief. That recruitment is live and ends this Friday at 5 p.m. So if there's anyone interested and would like to apply, please apply. But there will be a lag time between when we can go through all those resumes and have the selection process. And so we did a bit of a search and selected a gentleman by the name of Eric Woolman, who's here tonight, who I want to introduce and have stand up. So Mr. Woolman is the former police chief in Burlingame and has 36 years of experience in police service, having, before being the police chief in Burlingame, having served approximately 22 years at the city of Daly City. So a very distinguished resume, who came out of retirement to serve us. And I want to take this moment to thank Ed for the care that he has given over these last few weeks to make sure that he is leaving a department in the best shape possible, and the care that he has taken and sort of all the planning that's needed to sort of transition to a new chief and an interim chief, and all the time that he spent with Mr. Woolman to bring him up to speed. Eric, Ed, it's an example of your professionalism and how much you deeply care about San Bruno. And I know that job in San Mateo that I rib you about all the time is something that you just couldn't pass up to serve the community that you live in. And as I've said privately, eagles soar, they don't flock. And Ed is an amazing guy and an amazing professional. And I just want to thank you for everything you've done for the city of San Bruno, and I wish you the best of luck.
Item I, adopt a resolution waiving the rental fee of $200 for a Bay Area Special Olympics Lion Club basketball tournament. People?
So mine is a process question. Of course, I support the waiver of the rental fees. This came up a couple months ago. I know that Councilmember Medina requested that it be pulled when there was a waiver of fees for the block party for Halloween. And I'm just curious to know if since then there has been a process in place to determine who gets the waivers and who doesn't get the waivers. That'd be great. Thank you.
City Manager.
So at present, the city of San Bruno does not have a policy for granting fee waivers to outside groups. And so there had been a practice where these were approved at staff level. We stopped that practice this year, and really those decisions need to be made at the governing body level. So that is why you have seen these come to the governing board, because as staff, we did not feel that it was appropriate for us to say which organizations do not have to pay fees. That is a responsibility that is vested in you as decision makers. And we have also, I think, talked about during our budget process, potentially developing a process for that. Typically, those processes are really not codified in a number of steps. Really, it's during the budget process where the city council makes a decision on which groups they will subsidize and waive fees for, and those are approved in the budget. Right now, these are one-off events. I think this is the third one that I know of this year where fees are being brought to the governing board to say, do you want to waive these fees? And so that's what we're doing. This one is for 4 hours of gymnasium rental to a Special Olympics event that's put on by the Lions Club, a very worthwhile and beneficial event for the community. Absolutely.
Just a follow-up, when you said outside entities come to the board, so what would be considered in-house entities that don't need to come to for council approval?
Anything that the city of San Bruno is sponsoring or is directly part of. This is the Lions Club renting the gymnasium to put on an event that they are sponsoring. It's not a co-sponsored event like you would think of Community Day, where in our budget we allocate significant dollars and provide significant in-kind support because we are co-sponsoring that event.
Thank you. And just a comment for the Lions Club, I follow what the Lions Club's doing, and I think this is just a benefit to the community. Thank you so much for what you guys are doing, because the Special Olympics is in my opinion, one of the best events that we have. So thank you.
Marty?
First of all, I just wanted to make sure that as a San Bruno Lion, that it was okay for me to vote on this from our city attorney?
You don't have a personal financial interest in the issue, so you can participate.
Okay, and I'm fully in support of Special Olympics, and so I look forward to saying yes to this.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Laura?
No, I just wanted to say, I motion to approve the consent.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? 5-0 voice.